What are vertical spreads? Vertical spreads are among the first strategies many option traders learn because they're relatively straightforward and typically have defined risk and return possibilities. There are two types of vertical spreads: credit spreads and debit spreads, but many traders struggle to choose one over the other. While the forecast for the underlying stock price is often the primary consideration, traders shouldn't overlook the level and direction of implied volatility when deciding between these two spreads. Debit spreads. Let volatility guide you. When deciding between trading credit spreads or debit spreads, it can be helpful to align the option strike prices and expirations with the level and direction of implied volatility. Traders often start by identifying the level of implied volatility, which plays a crucial role in the pricing of options. When implied volatility is relatively high, options tend to be expensive, and some traders prefer credit strategies to maximize the premium received. This is why it can be helpful to put volatility in the context of implied volatility percentiles, which compares current implied volatility to past highs and lows, typically in the 52-week range. Levels for an underlying stock can be found on the thinkorswimr platform under the Analyze or Trade tab. Look at today's option statistics found below the option chain. There are several volatility stats listed here, and each has its benefits and uses. As a general rule, some traders consider buying a debit spread when implied volatility is between the 0 to 50th percentile of its 52-week range. That's because spreads tend to be less expensive when implied volatility is low. Some traders prefer selling a credit spread when implied volatility is greater than the 50th percentile of its 52-week range. The direction of volatility. Now let's talk about the direction of implied volatility. Direction matters because options trades are exposed to changes in implied volatility, also known by its options Greek term vega, for the duration of the trade. Debit spreads typically have positive vega and benefit when implied volatility rises over time. All else being equal, an increase in implied volatility could provide the opportunity to sell the spread for more than the debit. By contrast, credit spreads typically have negative vega and benefit when implied volatility falls over time. This makes sense because as implied volatility falls, options can become less expensive and are cheaper to buy back. However, because vertical spreads involve both long and short options, some gains or losses from changes in implied volatility in one contract will likely be offset by losses or gains from changes in implied volatility of the other. The net vega of the spread can serve as a rough estimate to help understand how much implied volatility will help or hurt the position. But other factors such as changes in the underlying stock price, how much time has passed, the bid-ask spread, and transaction fees will also affect the outcome of the trade. It's worth pointing out there are countless ways to construct vertical spreads, with various strike prices, expirations, and implied volatility levels. A lot depends on a trader's forecast for the timing and movement of the underlying stock. The bottom line, all else being equal, is that tracking the level and direction of implied volatility can sometimes help traders decide between credit and debit spreads, as well as show how changes in volatility can influence the value of a spread.